Welcome back to Lowe's Motor Speedway, the NEXTEL All-Star Challenge. Elliott Sadler first out after pit stops. He has a 1.3-second lead on Rusty Wallace. Wallace another 0.7 of a second out in front of Mark Martin. Back and forth is Greg Biffle, then Jimmy Johnson, then pole sitter Ryan Newman. Kurt Busch, Tony Stewart has come from 17th to 8th place. Joe Nemechek, Casey Kane.
One of the things that a lot of the drivers were concerned about was the track is so fast that it makes it difficult to race. That you need the whole track to be able to get around this joint as fast as it is. Right now, it looks like the case running pretty much single file.
And again, in about 17 laps, we will get a caution that will end segment 1, and there will be a break. These guys will be able to work on their car on pit road, be able to talk to their driver, make major adjustments to get ready for that next segment.
Now, it's worth leading at the end of segment 1. Right. It's worth $75,000.
$75,000, and that's not chump change, you know.
Ryan Vickers in the 25 car transferred in this race by winning the Open. He goes by Carl Edwards in the 99 and moves into the 14th position.
Tony Stewart, biggest gainer so far, along with Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Greg Biffle.
Greg Biffle, that 16 car, as we're riding with Dale Earnhardt Jr., he picked a lot of positions up on that pit stop. He really got the pit road good.
You know, like we were talking about the rules, and the way the rules are now, when we came over here for the Winston, or the Open, the All-Star race, whatever you want to call it at the time, we built a special car. We had a special engine. It was a whole different package than we would come here to run 600 miles with. You can't do that now. You know, with the rules the way they are and everything, pretty much common templates and engine specs and everything, transmissions, gears, you're locked into specific parameters, and you don't have a lot of options here.
So much so that Rusty Wallace asked his team, instead of bringing a special car, bring an expendable one.
Yeah, that's the difference. We brought a special car. He brings an expendable car.
The vote-in pick, Martin Truex Jr., he is up to 18th. Behind his DEI teammate Michael Waltrip, but well ahead of Matt Kenseth, the next car back.
Michael in the 15 car, they have just really struggled here all weekend long. Almost crashed qualifying. He bottomed out so bad over in turn 2. He was lucky to save it.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard Junior complain about his car all weekend long, the 8 car, that it just wasn't driving well. And it appears that this isn't happening either for these guys.
Challenge for second.
Shaping up for second place. Possibly, remember, Rusty Wallace, Mark Martin, possibly their last NEXTEL All-Star Challenge race. These guys are battling up near the front.
Well, if they finish in the top 50 in points this year, they're eligible next year. And Mark Martin opened that door in comments yesterday that he might come back and run another one. And as for Rusty, who knows? It'd be kind of fun to see him back for a one-off appearance. But right now, coming up on 30 laps complete, Elliott Sadler is your leader. If you'd like to be considered as NEXTEL Fan of the Week, go to foxsports.com/NEXTEL and enter today. You could be next. Debris in turn number 4 has brought out the caution. I could just hear him pulling somebody like, our producer over by the side of the road. So who do you think you were? Ryan Newman?
You'd have to be going pretty fast.
Yeah, right.
Now, with this caution coming out with about 8 laps before the end of this first segment, we had about 10 cars that stayed out, 12 cars that pitted. Most surprisingly, Rusty Wallace, who was in 3rd, pitted. Dick Berger.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised to see that too, Larry, but Larry Carter, his crew chief, made the call, made the decision for Rusty Wallace to pit. They made their adjustments, put 4 tires on the car. He's back out. Rusty never questioned it. Steve.
Well, Dick, Tony Stewart and Greg Zipadelli debated as to whether or not to pit. Greg said, bring it on in. Let's work on the car a little bit, and let's see what we've got for the end of this run. So that's what they did. They made a small air pressure adjustment. Smoke's back on the racetrack. Matt Yoakum?
No debate in the 38 pit. Parrott and Sadler both decided they need to stay out. Now, one thing that Elliott did say, that this engine is crazy fast. He's never had anything this fast here. The car a little on the tight side.
Now, Darrell, you know, even with that few laps to go, to me, remember, the magic number is possibly 12. It was kind of a no-brainer for the cars that were maybe about 13th on back, trying to let those fresh tires get them into the top 12, and maybe that would be the number that would be inverted.
I think that's what Rusty Wallace is planning on. He's planning on an invert, so he might as well come in and do a little work on the car, and that way he might get, you know, transferred up near the front in the next segment.
I think the big gainer on this caution was Bobby Labonte, because Bobby was running well back in the field, and now he's going to restart 6th row outside, so he could be 6th when he comes around. Steve.
You guys talked about Dale Earnhardt Jr. He said, I'm sliding the nose worse over the right front. It feels like the left front is coming off the ground. The nose is worse. You've got to work on that. Almost wrecked going into turn 1. Please take care of the nose of this race car.
Big hump going down into turn 1. Even if it has been ground, still got a big hump going down into turn 1. Can really upset your race car.
I don't care where I'm running when the caution comes out, but I want to be in an even numbered position so I can restart on that outside.
You got that right, buddy.
Yep.
Remember, every restart is double foul. The bad news for Bobby Labonte, he's the last car back there with those 16, 17 lap tires. Rusty Wallace and the 2 right there with him.
The thing you always have to watch on these restarts is spinning the tires, especially on when you're out on hot old tires. Boy, Elliott is doing everything he can to crowd Mark up that hill to get himself a fair chance off the corner, but he can't do it.
Mark Martin on the high side, he's going to win the battle off turn 2. He's going to take the lead down the back straightaway. 5 to go next time by in this first segment.
You just can't get off the bottom over off turn 2. You've got to have that outside, and that's going to be big on these restarts.
Who's going to bank $75,000 here?
Oh, got a car around, several of them.
Kevin Harvick, this is the big one, boys. We have it here every year.
Got a whole
Looks like about 10 cars involved.
Casey Kane, Tony Stewart, Carl Edwards.
Michael.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. went through the grass and might have missed it. Kevin Harvick hit the
We just
wall.
got a little right front, guys. Get you.
Dale Jarrett trailed the wreck, as did Matt Kenseth. Nemechek's in it, Michael Waltrip, Martin Truex, and Terry Labonte.
And the best I can tell, Mike and Darrell, every one of those cars right there, they were in the back of the pack. They were all cars that came to pit road.
Kevin Harvick's car is demolished.
And Harvick climbs out. Terry Labonte, window net down. Flames out the tailpipe of little consequence. He's done for the night. Harvick's car is junk, and so is Nemechek's. Stewart is not going to give up on it, but he hasn't seen all that damage yet.
That's a mad crash car right there.
And that's a couple of mad drivers right there as well.
Yeah, something happened up here off of turn 4. Somebody got sideways or got into somebody. I couldn't tell exactly what happened. We'll take a look at it here maybe in a minute.
Just remember, these 2 drivers had an altercation in the Gatorade 150 back in Daytona as well with each other.
Joe Nemechek and Kevin Harvick not pleased. This is always a race of great excitement, fever pitch, and that includes the temper and frustration level as well.
High expectations. You come in here with high expectations, that creates big disappointments.
The red flag is out, and the rule here under red flag conditions is different than your normal points race.
Yes, these guys can work on their cars under red flag.
Casey Kane limping down pit road. That took out just about everybody. Gordon.
Well, Darrell, let's have a look.
Yeah, you see, that doesn't look good right there.
Red flag.
Here we come. Somebody gets loose back in here. Yikes.
Joe Nemechek in the 01 car.
Was it from contact from Stewart?
Somebody got into the back of somebody. We got to look at it again. Somebody poked somebody coming out of 4 right there and turned them.
Well, either Nemechek got loose and lost his momentum,
Here we go.
or
Is that Tony behind him?
hard from that angle to tell which came first.
And then Joe goes down and gets in the quarter panel, the right rear quarter panel of Kevin Harvick. Not of Joe's fault, though. There was nothing he could do, Matt.
And we caught up with Kevin Harvick. Kevin, a lot of frustration boiling over.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Joe Nemechek's supposed to be the guy that never does nothing. Hey, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. And obviously, I'm tired of Joe Nemechek, you know, acting like he doesn't do nothing. And it may not have been his fault, but after Daytona and I should be fired and all that, he can take that and show it where the sun don't shine, baby.
full moon Saturday night. And this was Harvick walking away from the car with a steely gaze toward Joe Nemechek as the accident unfolded. The replays thus far inconclusive as to whether Nemechek's car got loose and was hit by Stewart or whether there was contact that precipitated the spin. But the result, 9 or so cars were pretty badly damaged.
Pretty smart guys. They don't take their helmets off till they get to kind of growling at each other. You know, the Winston, I think every year you can look back and we have these kind of altercations. Let's see what happens here. Joe's right there in front of Tony. You know, that just looks like Tony got in the back of Joe. I don't see Joe's car moving much. I don't see anything going on there. Look at it. You know, you got to continue to look at it, because every time you look at it, you're going to see something different. When you got this many cars involved, got to kind of keep looking at it until you can pinpoint.
If you compare the position of Nemechek's car to Harvick's car on the racetrack, there might have been a time when Joe's car had a little wiggle and then got straightened out, and that might have taken some of the momentum from Nemechek and brought Stewart to it.
I don't know, but those are hard licks. I know that. Golly.
Kevin Harvick's car is absolutely destroyed. We're riding with him here.
Well, there's only 3 people that really know what happened. That's Kevin Harvick, Joe Nemechek, and Tony Stewart. Matt's caught up with Tony.
Tony has climbed from his race car. What happened, Smoke?
I don't know. Come off a 4 and got straight there, and somehow got in the back of the 01. I didn't speed up, so I don't know what happened. I don't know if he got loose or something or what. He was having problems after he came out from the pit stop before, but it's a shame. This is the car I wanted to bring back next week, so I don't know. Knew something was like this going to happen. Bad thing is I'm not so sure I didn't cause it tonight, but I don't honestly know. I mean, I don't know why I run into him when we come off the corner at the same speed and then all of a sudden I run into him. I don't know how that happens.
We talked a lot about drivers that want to bring a car here and then also carry it over to the 600. And DW, like you said, you want to bring a car that you don't have to worry about if something happens to it.
Yeah, and it never fails. I've done it myself. I say, okay, I'm going to run this car tonight, and I want to save it for next week because it's such a great car, and it'll get torn up every time.
Now, Darrell, we've looked at a few replays. I don't see fault here. This, to me, I see a car that maybe loses a little bit of forward bite and the field accordions. I don't know when you're racing inches apart. You tell me, you've been there and done it. How do you avoid such a thing when the cars are that close?
There's things you never know. When you're the guy that hits the guy in front of you, did he lift? You know, you're not sure. Did something happen that, because like Tony said, I ran into the back of him. He admitted that. But why? They're coming off turn 4. Everybody's wide open. Everybody's going the same speed. But all of a sudden you get into the back of him. We'll never know until if we had gauges on everything and we could see gas pedals and brake pedals and steering wheels and everything else, maybe we'd know.
While that happened, one crew was celebrating. Mark Martins, as his driver, took the lead from Elliott Sadler. And behind them, all this, 9 cars piled up. Matt?
Caught up with Michael Waltrip now. The whole right side of your car is destroyed. What did it look like through your windshield, Michael?
It looked like I was going to get the whole right side of my car destroyed. I mean,
it happened.
There wasn't anywhere whatsoever to go. Usually I do pretty good when it's which way is my hat turned? If I can throw it right. No. Napa. Usually I do a pretty good job when there's a big crash like that, weeding my way through it, but I think I got in the grass and lost control of my car. And so instead of being able to try to pick my way through, I slid a little ways, and when I got to sliding, people started hitting me, and it was just a mess. And I don't know what caused it. Will you tell me?
There's a lot of difference of opinions on this one.
Well, you'll have that in big-time auto racing.
Especially in this type of an event.
What about the finish of the Open? I've never seen anybody spin anybody out any cooler than Brian Vickers did. He spun out Bliss and almost made it look like it was Bliss's fault. But it wasn't. It was his fault. But he did it so well that you really couldn't tell. So he got to be in the NEXTEL All-Star Challenge. I'm real proud that I brought my Napa Chevy back to the truck, and I feel good, and we'll come back and get them for 600 miles next week. I got a lot of great sponsors: Bass Pro Shops, Coca-Cola, Aaron's, Sales and Lease Ownership, Oreo Cookies, and
you got everybody there.
Thank you.
35 laps complete. The red flag is out and the wall is smudged. It's the Nextel All-Star Challenge. It's one of those full moon Saturday nights.